They said my inheritance was worthless swampland, so I used it to flood 79 of their illegal mansions and wipe a corrupt HOA off the map overnight. Picture this: the HOA president, standing in her $800 boots, watching muddy lake water swallow her entire retirement scam. The stench of panic mixing with the rising flood as I cranked open the dam controls my great-uncle built 80 years ago. She made one fatal mistake. She thought she was dealing with some broken-down electrician she could cheat out of his family's land. She had no idea she was messing with a man who had nothing left to lose, and who was holding a federal document that made him the god of every drop of water in this valley. 6 months ago, my life was in a freefall. A plant closure cost me my job. A divorce cost me my house. I was 52 years old and starting from zero. So when a lawyer called about my great-uncle Ezra's will, I figured it was just another bill. "You've inherited 847 acres, he said. But honestly, it's mostly wetland. Good for duck hunting, maybe. When I saw Thornfield Lake for the first time, I understood why old Ezra never left. It wasn't a swamp. It was 800 acres of pristine spring-fed paradise. And at the heart of it all was the massive earthen dam he'd built in the 1940s. That's when the white Escalade pulled up. Her name was Cordelia Ashworth Banks, HOA president of the brand-new Willowbrook Estates next door. She looked at me with the kind of pity reserved for roadkill. "Darling, I know this must be overwhelming," she said, dripping condescension. "All this wetland? The boundary disputes. It's more trouble than it's worth." She slid a paper towards me. "I'll give you 15,000. Cash. Walk away before this becomes your problem." When I laughed in her face, her smile vanished. The mask slipped, and I saw the shark underneath. "I hope you've done your research," she hissed. "The county takes environmental violations very seriously." That night, I found her development plans snagged on my fence line. Willowbrook Lake Resort, 79 luxury cabins. She wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to steal my inheritance. The attack came disguised as bureaucracy. A certified letter claiming my 80-year-old dam was a catastrophic flood risk. Her proof? A brand new survey drawn up by her brother-in-law. But I found the real survey at the courthouse. The original 1923 federal land grant. It turned out my property line didn't just border her precious HOA. It cut right through it. Her community pool, her tennis courts, her $1 million fountain, all built illegally on my land. Better yet, my great-grandfather's 1923 irrigation permit gave me senior water rights. In the West, that means the first person to use the water owns the water. So, I made one small, completely legal adjustment to my dam's release valves. By noon, her paradise was dying of thirst. The decorative creeks dried up. The fountains sputtered and died. Thousands of dollars in prize-winning landscaping began to wilt under the sun. My phone rang. "You psychotic bastard," she screamed. "Morning, Cordelia," I said calmly. "Just exercising my water rights. They're about 90 years older than your sprinkler systems. Drop your fake complaints and we'll talk." She called it extortion. I called it water law. She was learning she couldn't bully the man who controlled the water, so she decided to stop playing games and start a war. The bulldozers arrived before sunrise. I stood on my porch, watching century-old oak trees crash into my lake. She'd somehow gotten fraudulent emergency permits to clear the land. My sanctuary became a war zone overnight. Backup beepers and chainsaws replaced the sound of birdsong. But the moment that snapped my last thread of civility was when I found Luna. A young doe I'd watched drink from the lake every morning. I found her drowned, tangled in construction wire in a pool of diesel runoff. That's when I stopped playing defense and started planning annihilation. My hands shook as I finally opened. The one thing Uncle Ezra left locked away in his basement, an old gun safe. Inside, there were no guns. Just a single, leather-bound portfolio. It was the original 1923 contract between my family and the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Thornfield Lake wasn't just a lake. It was a designated federal emergency water supply. And as Ezra's heir, I now held the official authority of Emergency Water Management Operator. Federal authority trumps everything. Local zoning, development permits, HOA bylaws, all of it becomes toilet paper when Uncle Sam pulls rank. And the best part? Those 79 luxury cabins she was illegally building sat squarely in the federally designated flood zone for emergency operations. My crazy old uncle hadn't just left me a lake, he'd left me a weapon of mass destruction. I assembled my coalition, an environmental lawyer who fought dirty, a university scientist, a local contractor Cordelia had cheated, and the leader of the Three Rivers Sioux Nation, whose ancestral lands she was desecrating. Cordelia's final, desperate move was to throw a massive Labor Day festival to celebrate her victory, inviting politicians and news crews to the grand opening of her illegal cabins. She thought she had me trapped with a restraining order. She had no idea that at 2:45 p.m., I received an encrypted email from the Federal Emergency Management Office. My authority was active. At exactly 3:00 p.m., as she took the podium to give her victory speech, I opened the dam. The first sound was the emergency sirens, wailing across the valley. Then came my arrival. I rolled up in Uncle Ezra's restored 1950s pickup, an FBI agent in my passenger seat, and a convoy of official vehicles behind me. I cut into her broadcast with my own PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "my name is Wade Thornfield. I need to interrupt this celebration with some federal business." As the crowd watched in stunned silence, the FBI agent stepped forward and arrested Cordelia for conspiracy to defraud a federal water system. My lawyer explained how every permit was fraudulent. The tribal chairman declared the land a sacred site, invalidating all development, and all the while, the water was rising. Patiently, steadily, it lapped at the foundations of her cabins, reclaiming what was always its own. "You can't do this," she screamed, fighting against the handcuffs. "You're destroying hard-working families." "No," I said, stepping into the camera lights. "You destroyed them when you sold them property you knew was a lie. Justice, it turns out, sounds exactly like moving water." 6 months later, Cordelia is serving 18 months in federal prison for a laundry list of felonies. Her mugshot became an internet meme captioned, "When Karens meet federal law." The land is now protected, owned by an environmental trust I created with the tribe and the community. We worked with 35 of the original cabin buyers to create a new, eco-friendly community that enhances the environment instead of destroying it. Sometimes, inheritance isn't about money. It's about responsibility. And sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something better from the ashes of what your enemies tried to burn down.